Okay, so we have already started recording, and since 6:01 naman, to formally start this webinar, let us all put ourselves in the presence of the Lord and continue pausing for the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, ewas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit kong bangaw, ay ginatang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihiling, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di maghihiling. Luma ng araw ng walhagit pagsingka, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya ng pagkay mga aking, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Wow, oh my God. Wala ka nakabuhi. Hello? So, nadungga naka-mute. Oh. Sorry guys sa atong koan. Due to the technicalities, tingali mo tong na-mute si Jack. But the webinar must go on. Thus, I would like to greet everyone. How are you all today? Kung pwede, unsa man. Hi! I-on yung mic or something. Hello, good evening. Wabay mo hello na ho dira.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi.
Thank you. I welcome you all to this evening's webinar with some of our fourth year students of the BSA department. I'd like to acknowledge also our Dean, Mr. Tristan June Esclamado, CPA, together with our other instructors, Mr. Ivan Jake Gonzalez, CPA, and Mr. Melchor Obligado, CPA, where nga atong i-greet silang tanan og Happy Teacher's Day! Happy Teacher's Day! Since today is World Teacher's Day. We are thankful for our instructors who gave us this opportunity na mag-webinar tonight. And as you have seen, naamantay series of webinars. So this webinar tonight is one of the many webinars nga maatendan ninyo and namo. So without further ado, let's go on to our first presenter for tonight. Uh, she is one of the most famous fourth year students. Bitaw. So currently, sige pa bitaw kong admit sa atong webinar tonight. Okay. Currently, naano ta sa 60 di ay participants. So, dirita sa atong koan. Okay. Admitting. Okay, so ay, oh my gosh. Sorry, na-off ang atong camera. No. Okay. Okay. So here you go for our first presenter. Let's all welcome Miss Janila Kabulan. Virtual round of applause, everyone. Thank you. Promise.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hello.
evening.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to
Good
introduce
evening.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Janila Bicabulan, a fourth year accountancy section C, and I belong to body number 4, and that's why I am presenting now. Uh, one of the process of accounting cycle, since this was assigned to us by our dean, Sir TJ, so Tristan June Exclamado. So I hope everyone is doing great. So how are you tonight, guys? Okay lang ba ang signal? Kanang uwan ba sa inyong dapit diha?
Putol-putol. Putol-putol.
Yes,
Putol-putol. Choppy ate.
choppy. Sige, considerable lang na siya, guys, kay ngon anak man jud. So now, if I may, so let me go ahead and proceed to my discussion. Okay, so first is, does any one of you knows what is accounting cycle already? Guys, makita ninyo ang slides?
O at makita na.
Okay, thank
Kita,
you
ma'am.
sa response. So, naba dire, does any one of you knows what is accounting cycle? Everyone? Okay, pwede mo moingon wala. Or pwede ra mo ingon mo yes or no. Unsa man?
Wala
Everyone.
pati.
Ha? Na, okay.
Familiar.
So, agdiri like sa title pa lang nato sa atong webinar no is accounting cycle and perpetual method. So there are two keywords in here which is accounting cycle and perpetual method. So now let us go ahead and describe what is accounting cycle. So accounting cycle, guys, is a collective process of identifying, analyzing, and recording accounting events. So that is the purpose of accounting cycle. First is to identify. Unsa man ang imong i-identify? Of course, we are talking about accounting cycle. So accounting, so events related to finance, financial transactions, because linked with accounting is finance. Makita ang presentation, guys? Can you see?
Yes. Makita.
Okay, so okay, thank you. Thank you. Sulti mo guys ha if dili makita. So mao na siya identify financial transactions, then analyze financial transactions and record financial transactions. So why do we need to identify? Because guys, sa accounting is dili ra basta-basta nga ay nay transaction financial na siya related. No ha? Nay transaction financial na siya related, then i-analyze, then i-record dili. Naray mga pili nga transaction which you considered as financial and dili financial, okay? So there are key steps in the eight-step accounting cycle, which include recording journal entries, posting to the general ledger, calculating trial balances, making adjusting entries, and creating financial statements. So these are the key steps in the 8-step accounting cycle. Actually, there are other sources nga na ay 9-step, na apoy 10 steps nga sa accounting cycle, okay? But kana naka-highlight is mao na siya ang mga key steps, guys. So mostly within an accounting cycle, kani sila nga naka-highlight is mao jud na siya ang commonly nga gina-underwent sa mga accountants. Mao na siya ang basics and fundamental steps. Okay? So next slide kana makita ninyo? Do you see the illustration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so if I may ask, unsa man ang naa sa first step?
Identify and analyze transactions.
Okay, very good. And then the second step?
Record journal entries.
Third step?
Post general ledger.
And then fourth? Sige, go ahead.
Prepare and adjust the trial balance.
Fifth?
Make adjusting entries.
And then sixth?
Prepare and adjust the trial balance.
And then seventh?
Prepare financial statements.
And the last one is?
Make closing entries.
Okay, so that is the proper order of the accounting cycle. So guys, is dili na siya kanang ang mauna is mag-record tag journal entries. No, dili na siya pwede ha. Ang mauna mag-post ta sa general ledger, dili na. Or moderitso kag mag-close ka og entries, dili. So kani siya nga step by step is cannot be dili siya pwede mag-interchange because that is a systematic way on how to record, how to analyze, how to record, how to post, how to make adjusting entries, prepare an adjusted trial balance up to making closing entries. So mao na siya guys, bawal magka-interchange. So mao na siya ang inyong dapat timanan. So why do accountants observe accounting cycle? And that is to ensure that the statements financial statements of the company is in accordance with the IFRS or the GAAP. So this IFRS and GAAP, I know nga familiar na tatanan ingon ana, di ba? Mao na siya ang standards wherein dito ta mag-base sa ato ang accounting nga mga processes nato, okay? So if ang ato ang mga gipang post sa atong financial statements is dili consistent with the GAAP or IFRS, then your financial statements will not be considered as relevant financial ang mga information nga naa sa imong financial statements will not be considered as relevant financial information. Okay? So understood?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, thank you for the response. Now, since I am the first reporter, so let me go ahead and ang ako ang i-discuss is how to identify and analyze transactions and record journal entries. So going back to our title, we have accounting cycle through the use of perpetual inventory method. So actually, there are two methods. The other one is the periodic inventory. Yes. Kisa to niingon yes? Mga bright ni mga first year oy mga bright jud oy. Now the periodic inventory system and the perpetual inventory system, but there are other reporters for the periodic inventory system. That's why dili na ko mo go in depth sa periodic inventory system. Okay, so but before that humana ta ingon ani the purpose of accounting cycle, and then okay, so sa first step kana makita ang slides guys.
Yes.
Okay, so
Wala pati.
sige, mag-load na siya kadugayan. So, the first step in accounting cycle is identifying and analyzing transactions. So, this is the first stage in accounting cycle and the very foundation of accounting. So, why it is termed as the very foundation of accounting? So, as what I've said, dili ka maka-post sa imong ledger, dili ka maka-prepare of an adjusted trial balance, dili ka maka-come up ingon ato mga closing entries and so on sa imong mga financial statements if first and foremost dili ka maka-identify o maka-analyze sa mga transactions. And of course, sa akong gisulti, there are ways on how to analyze and identify financial transactions, okay? Not all related business transactions are considered as financial transactions. So, mao na ang inyong dapat nga hinumduman. So, this takes information from original sources or activities and translates that information into financial data. So, financial data, if you have financial data, then as you go along the process, then you can create a financial information. Okay? So, what are these original sources? Like sales invoices, mga resibo nga inyong makuha sa tindahan, payments, payroll, and etc. Mga na sila ang original sources, okay? So, this is the phase wherein raw financial information are determined for it to be translated into something useful. So, why it is termed as something useful? Because the purpose of accounting cycle is to make a financial statements that is accurate, consistent with the standards, which can be used by the both internal and external users. So who are these mga users? Like hatag mong example. Financial statements or financial
Investor,
lenders,
creditors, and other
yes.
creditors.
Very good. Mga bright
Other
mga
users.
first year, no? Okay, proud na jud Sir Miko Minjo. Sige, okay, that's very good, guys. So, how to determine and analyze transactions? So, determine if the event is an accounting transaction. So, need to determine if, I'm sorry, guys. Need to determine if it involves a monetary amount. So, like what I've said, dili tanan business transaction makonsider as financial transaction. So, unsa man to kato nag-involve og monetary amount. Okay? So, but what is a financial transaction in accounting? So, financial transaction in accounting is an event that impacts on the monetary value of asset, liability, and owner's equity. Okay? So, kahibaw naman mo ingon ani, di ba nga mga account? Muna sila ang importante nga account when it comes to making our financial statements. Okay? So, especially ang atong financial position ingon ana. So, mao na to siya. So, examples ingon ani kato mga sales, purchases, receipts, and payments. So, mao na siya ang example sa financial transaction. So, if for example, nagpalit ka og surgical mask sa Rose Pharmacy. So, ang kana siya nga receipt is mao na siya ang imuhang source. And then, agkatong imong transaction with the Rose Pharmacy that is considered as a purchase. So, kana siya. It is a financial transaction. So, number 2 is identify what accounts it affects and determine what type of accounts they are. So, for example, an entity paid rent for the month of October worth $1,000. So note that every transaction leads to a measurable change in the accounting equation. So prepare a journal entry to record this transaction. So there is an increase in rent expense, and unsa ra ganito if unsay nature sa expense account, it is debit no, kung mo increase siya debit siya, and ang iyahang ang unsa man nga account ang naapektuhan, cash no, kay syempre nagbayad kas imuhang boarding house, and then syempre nakuha nag imuhang cash is an asset, so there is a decrease in asset, cash, particularly cash. So credit cash. Okay, hello guys, nakasunod ra?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, again, determine which accounts are going up or going down. So, parihaingon ani atong example, nagpagawas og kwarta kay aron makabayad sa iyahang rent expense. So, unsa ang taas? There is an increase in rent expense and there is a decrease in cash. Okay? Okay, thank you. So, mao na siya. So, apply the rules of debits and credits. So, pwede mo mag-screenshot, guys, pero I know nga familiarize na mo ingon aning mga nature sa mga accounts, like unsa sila, if mo increase or mo decrease, like debit ba sila or credit. So, for the asset, increase debit, decrease credit, expense, increase kung mo increase siya, na siya sa debit, and then kung mo decrease credit, and then liabilities, then revenue, equity, and revenue. Okay? So, kasubay man siguro, no? Ingni ko if paspas ra or hinay ra. Okay ra? So, now let's proceed to the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, karon is determine and record accounting transaction through perpetual system. So what is perpetual system? A perpetual system keeps continual track of your inventory balances, and it provides highly detailed view of changes in inventory with immediate reporting of the amount of inventory in stock, and accurately reflects the level of goods on hand. So actually between the two inventory system or methods, ang kaning perpetual is mao ni siya ang complex, and mostly ang nagamit ingon ani are those businesses with high sales volume and multiple retail outlets like grocery stores and pharmacies. Mao na siya ang mga kanang naggamit ingon ani, no? And actually because kani sila nga mga nature of business is na sila multiple retail outlets. So that's why they need to monitor at the point of sale ang ilahang mga like ang ilang inventory. Okay? Para ma-keep track nila ang ilahang like pila na ang inventory nga ilahang napagawas, ingon ana pila ang inventory nga ilahang napuno, ingon ana. So mo na siya. And kaning mga kung makabantay mo sa mga grocery stores, pariha ingon anang Metro is nasa sila mga enterprise asset management software. So na sila kanang software na siya like record na tud tanan to ilahang mga say nga ingon aning mga operational nilang dito and mga equipment like like monitoring na pud siya sa status sa ilahang assets. So mao na siya. Kay remember, merchandise inventory is considered as an asset. Okay? So, kung wa ko na sayo, mo to siya ang nabasahan, charot. So, note in merchandising, so mostly, since perpetual system is used by retail outlets and of course, mga businesses like grocery stores and pharmacies, and we know na kana sila kasagwaran is a type of merchandising business, okay? So, in merchandising, the entity acts as both buyer and seller. So, if makabantay mo, lahi ang merchandising sa manufacturing. So, nabay anyone in the class nga maka-compare and contrast sa merchandising and manufacturing. Anyone? Hello? Anyone in the class? Like, maka-compare and contrast sa merchandising and manufacturing. Okay, I understand. So, if maawa mo, okay ra. So, guys, in merchandising, mopalit ka og inventory, then imo siyang ibaligya, di ba kana? So, sa simple terms siya, sa manufacturing, ikaw mismo mohimo sa imuhang ibaligya, di ba? Okay, so in merchandising, guys, the entity acts as both buyer and seller. So instances by which the entity is the buyer, so purchasing merchandise goods. And then if an entity returns defective goods and products, so enjoys cash discount and pays free charges for purchased goods. So for example, si Company X is a merchandising company. So when man siya mo acts as a buyer, if mo palit siya ngadto sa iyang supplier og mga merchandise goods. If ang iyang gipalit is na ay mga defects, so iya tong ibalik ngadto sa iyang supplier. So that is an act of Company X as a buyer, okay? So enjoys cash discount. So mao ni siya, ang kaning cash discount is mao ni ang right sa usa ka buyer, especially kung naa sila mga terms with the supplier, no, nga kanang kung makabayad ka ingon sa imuhang utang at a specific date, so tagaan ka og discount. Okay, so then pays free charges for purchased goods. So kaning free charges mga shipment na niya sa iyang mga shipment fees, ingon ana ba, shipping fees sa iyang mga gipampalit nga mga purchased goods. So mao na siya mga instances nga si company si merchandising company acts as a buyer. So what about if si merchandising company acts as a seller? So mao ni siya, merchandise goods are sold. Number 2, if the customer returns defective merchandise goods, I'm sorry. And number 3, customer avails cash discount offered by the entity for goods sold on credit. Then, if the entity pays for the free charges for the sold goods. So acts as a seller. So, balik ta ni Company X. So, si Company X as a merchandising company, it can act as a seller when ang kadtong iyahang merchandise goods nga napalit from the supplier is iyang ibaligya ngadto sa third party. So, third party kaning mga customers niya. So, if the customer returns defective merchandise goods, so if si merchandising company, si Company X is ang iyahang baligya nga merchandise goods is gibalik sa iyang customer diha niya kay for some defects ingon ana. Sunod is customer avails cash discount offered by the entity for goods. So there is si Company X, siya ang provider sa discount ngadto sa third party dito sa customer niya. Ingon ana ha, and if the entity pays for the free charges for the goods sold. So kani siya ang mobayad sa mga shipping fees sa mga goods nga iyang nabaligya. Okay? So sabotable ra ni si diri dapita, guys. Okay, so ang inyong timan-an is merchandising acts as both buyer and seller. So, how to record transaction using perpetual inventory system? So, first is purchase of merchandise. So, if sa buyer perspective niya, if mo purchase si company X og merchandise, ang iyahang debit is merchandise inventory, and then credit cash if iyahang gibayran dayon, and then accounts payable if purchase on credit. So unsa man yung purchase on credit, giutang niya ngadto sa supplier ang iyahang merchandise goods nga gipamalit. So for purchase return guys, ang atong journal entry is debit cash or accounts payable if purchase on credit. If giutang, accounts payable ha, and then credit merchandise inventory. So first is direta balik tas number 1, purchase of merchandise. Nganong gidebit man ang nganong gidebit man ang merchandise inventory. So merchandise inventory is an asset, and basta na ay increase sa asset it is na siya sa debit. Okay? So that's why gidebit nimo ang merchandise inventory nimo because there is an increase in merchandise inventory, and then credit cash if gipaid nimo siya in cash. So, mao na siya, nakay-decrease sa imong cash account. And accounts payable, gi-credit siya if purchase on credit. Ngano naman na siya sa credit ate, ang accounts payable. Remember guys, if there is an increase sa imong accounts payable, diha na nimo ibutang sa credit. And if there is a decrease in your accounts payable, sa debit na siya ibutang. Okay? So, sa purchase return, debit, cash or accounts payable if utang, and then credit merchandise inventory. Ating naman po sa credit ang merchandise inventory. So remember, purchase return. Si company X is naa siya gipalit nga merchandise pero naay defect. So iyahang gibalik na to sa iyang supplier. So there is a decrease in the company's merchandise inventory, no? So there is a decrease in assets. So that's why gi-credit nato si merchandise inventory kay kuan man siya, decrease man siya. And nganong gikuan naman po dati? Nganong gi-debit man pud ang cash? Of course, kay imo man gibalik ag imuhang gipalit nga merchandise inventory or giutang nga merchandise inventory. Of course, if naka-paid ka in cash, mabalik to nimo ang cash. Okay? Mabalik nimo ang cash. And accounts payable, of course, there is a decrease in accounts payable since ang imong merchandise inventory nga giutang is imo man gibalik. Okay? So, nakasabot ra sa logic. And then, for number 3, cash discount goods bought on credit. So, mo ni siya ang mga giutang. So, debit ka, of course, accounts payable, automatic na. And then, credit ka, cash, and merchandise inventory. And then, kani siya is if ever naka-avail sa kanang cash discount. Pero if ever ate wa naka-avail sa cash discount, unsa man ang ibutang, of course, kanang kuan ra diretso ra, debit, accounts payable, and then credit cash. No, kanang ang kani siya nga situation, kaning debit cash, kaning debit accounts payable then credit cash is para ni kadto sa mga mga company nga like ning palit sila og merchandise inventory din ilang gibayran dayon. Wala na yung mga terms ingon ana. Okay? So for the last is fit in. So simple ra, debit merchandise inventory and then credit ka cash. No, kay hingbayad man ka sa shipment sa imuhang goods nga gipalit. So mo na siya, na-decrease sa imuhang cash. And the next is unsa ang what are the entries, journal entries if the company, merchandising company acts as a seller. So this is a seller perspective, guys. So if a merchandise is sold, so debit cash or accounts receivable and then credit sales. Okay? Sales, if there is an increase of sales, that is in credit balance. Okay? While a cash, since there is an increase in cash kay nakasold man siya og inventory or nakasold man siya og merchandise, so there is an increase in cash or accounts receivable. So accounts receivable if ang buyer is giutang niya ang iyang gipalit ngadto kang seller. So sa merchandising company should have a journalizing entry accounts receivable. Okay? And then second, the next one, so there are 2 entries for every sale, guys. Okay? Kung makasold si merchandising company na ay duha ka entry. So mao ni siya. Debit cash or accounts receivable if purchased on credit or sold on credit, and then credit sales. And the other entry is debit cost of goods sold, and then credit merchandise inventory. So mao na siya ang duha ka entry. So next is sales returns and allowances. So debit sales returns and allowances, since naay increase sa sales returns and allowances, and credit cash accounts receivable. Unya if mangutana mo ate lahi lagi to kaganiha ate nga sales returns and allowances man pud to. Unya ang iyahang entry kay ang iyahang cash og accounts iyahang cash og accounts payable kay naaman sa debit. Naaman sa debit ate, purchase return, naman sa debit ang iyang cash ug accounts payable. Nya naglibog mi ate kay ang diriya kay kuan. Ang debit niya kay sales returns and allowances, unya credit niya kay cash or accounts receivable. Remember guys nga agkato kaganiha is buyer perspective, agkaron is seller perspective. Si company is siya ang nag-act as a seller. Okay? So, if naay sales returns and allowances, debit siya sales returns and allowances, and then credit cash or accounts receivable. Okay? Kay ninggamay ang iyahang cash. Kay syempre, iya man tong i-refund iya man tong ibalik tong kwarta sa nagpalit niya. Kay na may mga defects ang iyang baligya. And also, there is a decrease in accounts receivable kung utang to siya. Okay? So, number 3 is if customer avails cash discount for goods sold on credit. Goods sold on credit na guys. So debit cash and also sales discount, and then credit accounts receivable. And then if kanang if wa naka-avail sa cash discount, debit cash and then credit accounts receivable. Mo na siya sa seller's perspective guys ha. So number 4 is freight out. Debit freight out. Another term for freight out is delivery expense. And then credit cash. So mo na siya sa seller perspective. Mo na siya ang buyer, mo na siya ang seller perspective. Pwede mo maka-screenshot if gusto mo guys. Screenshot na dayon kaya aron dili magbibog. The next. Screenshot na pod. Okay, now, proceed na to diri sa illustration na ahong gi-prepare. So, X company is a wholesaler of disposable face masks. On January 21, 2020, the entity's inventory consisted of 500 boxes, priced at 50 pesos each. During the current year, the following events occurred. So, first is purchase 4,000 boxes on account at 50 peso each. Then second is return 235 boxes of defective disposable face masks to supplier and receive credit. And then third, paid 3,500 of the boxes purchased. So number 4 is sold 4,100 boxes at 75 peso each, and then fifth received 145, so on. Di na nabasahon tanan, kamo na laman guys. So for the transaction number 1, unsa may journal entry ingon aning purchase 4,000 boxes on account at 50 each. So remember, if mo palit ka si company, si X company acts as a buyer, okay? Nipalit ko no siya og 400 boxes at 50 pesos each. So, debit merchandise inventory at 200,000. So, giunsa man ning 200,000 ate? It's 4,000 multiplied by 50 pesos. Muna siya. And then accounts payable, nganong accounts payable man ate? Nganong accounts payable man siya, nganong dili man siya cash ate? Kani siya is accounts payable since on credit ni siya gipalit ni X company. Okay? So mo na siya. So credit pud ka 200,000. And then for the transaction to return 235 boxes of defective disposable face mask to supplier and receive credit. Okay? So here ang iyahang journal entry is debit accounts payable and then credit merchandise inventory. So as what I've said, if si merchandise company agdiri sa transaction number 2, si X company acts as a buyer, okay? So ang iyahang gipalit nga merchandise goods from supplier is iyang gibalik kay naaday mga defects. So there is a decrease in the company's accounts payable. That's why nag-debit ta. And then there is a merchandise inventory because ato man gibalik man ni company ang katong ang uban nga na mga defective nga disposable face mask. So naay decrease sa iyahang asset. That's why naa siya sa credit. So that is worth 11,750. Nganong 11,750 man ate? So remember 235 boxes and each box cost 50 pesos. So 235 times 50, so that is 11,750. So for the third transaction, paid 3,500. So this is a financial transaction. So first is purchase na siya kanipod mga sales returns, mga ingon ana financial transaction na siya guys since nag-involve siya og monetary amount. So mao na siya ang inyong timan-an. For the third transaction, it is a payment. So paid 3,500 of the boxes purchased. So account agdiri is si X company still acts as a seller, as a buyer. Okay? Buyer siya ni supplier. So, mao na siya. So, accounts payable debit, 175,000 and cash credit, 175,000. At nganong debited man ang accounts payable ni X company. Debited siya since ning bayad naman siya og kuan. Nibayad naman siya 175,000 worth ingon adton 3,500 boxes nga iyahang giutang. So, naag iyahang outstanding payable is nakuwaan. That's why gidebit nato. Kay di ba basta mo gamay ang imong accounts payable, adto nimo siya ibutang sa debit. Sa debit. So there is a decrease in cash kay nabayran naman, so that is worth 175,000. So 3,500 times 50 mao na siya guys, 175,000. So for the transaction number 4, sold 4,100 boxes at 75 pesos each. So remember agdiri si company X acts as a seller. Okay? So, nakasold daw siya og 4,100 boxes. So, kadtong iyahang gipalit nga mga surgical mask, iyahan na pong gibaligya ngadto na pud sa third party. Sa iya na pong mga customer. So, company X acts here as a seller. So, if naagani ka ng kuan, remember, if ang merchandise inventory is nabaligya, remember nga naatay duha ka entries ingon ana. So first is accounts receivable, that is 307,500 because each box cost 75 pesos. Okay? Ating anong dili man siya 50 pesos, ating anong 75 pesos, naglibog jud me. Okay. Ang 50 pesos guys is mao to siya ang price sa per box nga gipalit ni X company sa iyang supplier. So since business man ta, najud nay kanang kuan guys. Najud nay tubo. So ibutang na laman nato nga ang tubo ni X company if iya tong ibaligya tong per box is 25 pesos. So that's why nahimo siyang 75 pesos, okay? If basin maglibog mo kay mag-business na lamang pud day kag dili ka ka-profit, di ba? So, ang iyahang debit is accounts receivable 307,500, and then ang iyang sales is credited since on credit account siya kay na increase in sales means na credit siya dapat. So that is 307,500. And then of course ang iyang second entry is debit cost of goods sold, and then credit merchandise inventory. Ate, naglibog jud meeting. Anong dili man 307,500 307,500 ganun 205,000 man dis aman nagikan. So cost of goods sold, sa pagkuha sa cost of goods sold unsa man pila man to ang price sa original price per box. So that is 50 pesos, di ba?
50.
Okay, thank you. So 4,100 times 50, that is 205 pesos, okay? And then ang merchandise inventory pod credited as 205,000 pesos. So mao na siya. As for the transaction number 5, receive 145 boxes of defective disposable face masks returned by a customer. So if I may ask kanina sa last transaction, last na ba ni nga transaction? Dili pa. Sa second to the last transaction, if I may ask, kanang unsa man ni siya, si company X unsa man acts as a buyer or a seller?
Seller.
Okay, very good. So, ang iyahang gibaligya is na ay defect, so mo to gibalik sa customer. So, sales return 10,875, so that is 145 times 75, so mo na siya. And then there is a decrease in accounts receivable since ang katong mga disposable face mask was sold on credit, so that is credit 10,875. So, for the merchandise inventory, there is an increase of merchandise inventory since nabalik man tong iyang inventory kay na may mga defects. So that is 7,250, and the cost of goods sold is 7,250. So giunsa man na ate, it is 145,000 times the original price of the per box sa kadtong surgical mask or the disposable face mask. So that is 7,250. Okay? Nakasunod ra?
Yes.
Tingnan ko gasa dapit naglibog ha. Guys, let me remind you that if you have any questions, just put it on the chat box. If ever na may mga question related sa ang topic, then I will answer your questions sa atong open forum, okay? Okay, thank you guys. Okay, so next journal entry is receive cash for the 3,900 boxes sold. So unsa man si X company dire? Acts as a seller or a buyer? Anyone?
Seller.
Okay, seller siya. Very good. Very good. Nakasabot man day mo guys. Thank you. So there is a decrease in cash nga 290,500. That is 3,900 times 75. And then there is a decrease in accounts receivable, the same amount. Okay? And then sa diri guys, sa kinalasa is actually what na jud ni si Jay kuan jud sa aho ang report, pero sagdi na laman ni Apple. So beginning inventory ni Ja, if atong ibalik sa problem, na siya 500 boxes. Kita mo no, mo na iyang beginning inventory for January 1, 2020. So na siya 500 January 21 dai. Na siya 500 boxes. Ang iyahang purchases was 4,000. Mo na siya. And then ang iyahang purchase returns was 235 na purchases niya 4,000, transaction number 1. Purchase returns niya is 235, that's why atong giles siya sa. And then ang iyahang sales, naka-sale siya og 4,100 nga boxes. And then naay gi-return sa iyahang customer nga 145 boxes. So imo na siyang i-deduct i-minus na nimo tanan. So ang iyang ending inventory dapat is 310 boxes, but in here year-end physical count of inventory is 290. So, there is a difference of 20 boxes. Sakto ba? No, 20 boxes. So, unsaon man na nimo? So, inventory niya is na siya debit 25,000 and then diri apod na siya credit nga 11,750. So, this aman ni gikan ning 25,000. So, 25,000 is 500 times 50. Mo na siya. And then this apod ni gikan ning 11,750. So, 11,750 is mao ni siya ag katong gipalit ni X company sa iyang supplier pero iyang gibalik. So mao ni siya ang sales returns. Okay? Purchase returns I mean. So mao na siya ang purchase returns. So ang kaning 200,000 is mao ni siya ang kadtong 4,000 boxes nga iyahang gipalit. And then ang kaning 205,000 is mao ni siya ang kadtong iyahang sales sa company worth 205,000. And then ang kaning 7,250 is ang sales returns and allowances nga worth 7,250. So if imuha na siyang ikuan 25,000 minus 11,750 or imo na siyang i-add tanan diri aning naa sa left side, then i-deduct nimo diri asa naa sa right side, so that is 15,500 pesos nga worth of inventory. Okay? So, ang inventory per book niya is 15,500. So, that is 310 times 50. So, asa man gikan ning 310 ate? So, mao na siya ang kanang year-end inventory supposedly. Okay? It times 50, so that is worth 15,500. So, na-reflect siya diri as ato ang illustration. So, ang inventory per count niya, at the end of the year kuno is ihap sila pila na ka book inventory pila ka book box ang nahibilin na laman daw is 290, i-times 50 nimo 14,500. So, there is a difference of 1,000. Okay? And then sa COGS nimo, ang kaning 205,000 is mo nag-reflect ni siya sa imuhang sales. While ang kaning 7,250 is mao ni siya ang sales returns and allowances. So deduct. So ang imuhang ending balance is 197,750. So para mag-adjust ka sa imuhang cost of goods sold at the end of the accounting period, so ang kaning 197,750 imura na siyang i-add sa imuhang inventory shortage. So that is worth 198,750. Okay? So ang imuhang the journal entry for the transaction 7 for the year-end physical count of inventory, which is 290, inventory shortage 1,000, that is 310 times 50, 15,500, and 290 times 50, 14,500. So 1,000 mao na siyang imuhang inventory shortage. And merchandise inventory also credit 1,000. So, I hope naka-follow mo guys. Pwede ninyo i-screenshot. And then, mag-send pud mi sa amo ang mga PPT ngadto PowerPoint presentation sa ato ang sa GC, okay? Para na may matun-an. If ever gusto mo nga inyohang tun-an og balik. So I hope na you learned from my something from my report. And again, if ever you have any questions, just put it in the chat box and I will answer your questions on our at our open forum. Okay? So thank you for listening guys, and stay lang kung asa mo and napatay mga next reporters. Okay? Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening. Good
evening.
evening.
Good evening once again. I am Christian P. Bernal and I'm going to discuss the step 3 and step 4 of the accounting cycle. So my purpose here is to help you understand og unsaon pag post sa mga journal entries sa ledger o unsaon po paghimog trial balance. So, how na i-share akong screen? So,
Ito, wait. Ito. Sakay.
wait siya guys ha. Kadyo.
Kadyot.
Move the number. So, the title of the step 3 is Journal entries are posted to the ledger. So before we go to the application, let me first explain to you or discuss a little of the concepts. So, posting. Let's start with the posting. So, means transferring the amounts from the journal to the appropriate accounts in the ledger. So, agbuot pa sa what ana, kuan ra i-transfer ang amount kung unsay naka-indicate sa journal to the appropriate accounts in the ledger. So, ledger is a grouping of entities account. Then general ledger kanang di ba na dash reference book kay gigamit na siya for the purpose of classify man na siya og summarize transaction para magamit puhon sa basic financial statement. So naay do ka klase sa general ledger accounts. The first one is the balance sheet or permanent accounts, assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. While the second one is the income statement or temporary accounts. Example na is income and expense. Diri sa number 1, balance sheet or permanent accounts, nganong permanent siya kay bisan pa og sa next cycle, na ni present jud ni kanunay ni assets, liabilities, and equity. While sa income statement nganong temporary ni siya kay sa sunod nga period na magoy kuan dako ang tendency nga dili na ni siya mobalik na ni another account. Then let's go to the application. Di pa di ay sa kuan pa ta sa steps. The steps in posting journal entries to the ledger as follows. First is to transfer the date of the transaction from the journal to the ledger. The second one is to transfer the page from the journal to the journal reference column of the ledger. The third one is to post the debit figure from the journal as a debit figure in the ledger and the credit figure from the journal as a credit figure in the ledger. And the last one is to enter the account number in the posting reference column of the journal once the figure has been posted to the ledger. So, ibalik sa So, dili na application na ta guys, sa application ta. So, suppose
Okay.
maklaro guys.
Yes.
Paki-full screen lang ako
Yes.
sa inyo. Paki-full screen ko sa inyong mga cellphone kay para maklaro ni pohon o mag-start kita sa ledger. Okay, let's start. So, ingani ni siya guys. Ang first step is to kuan ba dyan, no? Agibotang is to katong number. So, di ba sa kuan na siya sa journals na na siya page 1, page 2. So, suppose nga sa kuan na tanang atong na journal, tanang journal entries is post ra dito sa page 1. So, mo ni siya na kaning hong na kuan kani siya mo na siya ato nang isuwat diri sa right, upper right. Una dira ja kuan sa T account ni guys ha para makahibaw mo ni T accounts. So ang atong unang i-ledger is kaning kinaunhan kaning May 1 nga date. So natay cash. So butang tag accounts ni indire cash ja ang ijang cash is tas jay debit nga 250,000. So sa left side ato pong isuwat ang 250,000. Ja diri pod sa ijang kauban nga account is Diaz Capital, di ba? Credit ta siya. So magbutang po ta sa ilain na nato siya nga ledger og post. So Diaz Capital atong butkan og account title or account name. So since the credit man ni siya kaning Diaz Capital, sa credit po dato siya ibutang. Nga na siya day. Sa next pod kani next nga journal entry is same ra siya May 1. So prepaid rent atong ibutang dire sa ledger sa T account. So prepaid rent. A prepaid rent worth 8,000. Ja cash o ni-repeat na po ng cash since ang cash is credit ato ni siyang ibutang dire nga side credit side sa cash nga account. So 8,000. Nakagets mo guys wa?
Gets ra.
Kung ato ni siyang ikuan tanan kibali kung ato ni siyang butang tanan sa T account ingani ni siya porma guys na kani mo ni siya ingani na kita ninyo
Yes.
kung ato to siya ibutang tanan sa T account ingani na siya porma diretso maingani ni siya after ingato ato na siya i-add tanan ang debit side sa cash o i-add po nato ang credit side sa cash day after ingana ato na siyang i-deduct. Always remember kung kinsa tong dako og amounts didto ibutang sa ubos niya ang balance kung pilay ang answer, pilay difference niya. Like ani kaning natay cash nga 520,400. So ato nang siyang i-deduct sa credit side nga cash pod nga 498,200. So natay nakuha nga 22,200. Ingana ra po'y mahitabo kung wa gali si Jay kibalik kauban wa si Jay like ganing notes payable wa si Jay debit nga amount so ato na siyang i-bring down ato na mura na si Jay kuan ni ja di-report kani mo ni si ja sa accounts payable ingana ra guys og dili pod sa utilities payable mura na si ja ang mura na importante inyong hinumduman kung unsa kung tahay both sides debit and credit sides has kanang value kani i-add na nimo una first tanang debit nimo nga cash i-add nimo tanang credit nimo nga cash i-add nimo after ingana imo na siyang i-minus day mo na ni atong total kani siya kana mo na atong total pag minus ani og kani mo ni siya mo na ni yung kuan guys mura na kibali yung hinumduman kung magkuan mo og T account kay namo koy uban nga though na yung formal way to kuan himo og ledger but what I am trying to kuan ninyo tabang is kanang unsaon pagpapadali ba kay limit naman jud ingani mo day limited ra oras so much better og ingani ra as long as ang concepts na kuan na ahong nahatag ninyo then mo to si just sa step 3 katong journal entries posted to the ledger ingani siya may tabo so sa step 4 na punta so step 4 kita guys nakita ninyo?
Yes. Yes, yeah.
Step 4 is preparation of trial balance. So concepts ta. Trial balance means list of all accounts with their respective debit and credit balance. Then, gi-prepare siya to verify the equality of the debits and credits in the ledger. Ang procedures in the preparation of trial balance is first, list the account titles in numerical order. The second one is to obtain the account balance of each account from the ledger and enter the debit balances in the debit column and the credit balance in the credit column. Then the third one is to add the debit and credit columns. Then ikaapat is to compare the totals. Trial balance is a control device that helps minimize accounting errors. When totals are equal, it means nga balance siya. They note that the equality provides an interim proof of the accuracy of the records, but it does not signify the absence of error. Kay basin lagi na tendency nga sa sobra na jud dali-dali og suwat, nakuha na mali na jud amounts, instead nga 750 nakuha na nito 570 na noon nga na mo nay atong kuanan dira na mga errors na di kalika dyan nga mga errors nga mo exist mo nang ini maghimo mo nga ni or sa kuan pa naman ledger pa lamang dapat kuan gadyo mo 100% ang inyong kuan panghuna-huna kay para di mo malipat. So application na punta guys. Nakita? I-full screen ninyo guys para maklaro ka jud. So, kuan example nga ni natin trial balance nga. Kuan wedding hours as naraman is just a basic accounting nga libro, pero ako lamang siyang i-explain ninyo para makasabot mo nga no. So, the first step is to man to no, numerical orders. But since wa man ko na-present nga kuan numerical order, so kanang account kana siya guys, account numbers na siya. Ang kasagaran nga na kanang 110 cash mo na account number sa cash is 110. Since wala man ko the percentage ingani na lamang na other way nga para makahibaw mo ug unsaon pag hanay unsaon pag arrange. So sa assets current, non-current, liabilities current, non-current. After owner's equity, income, the expense mo na si arrangement yan na mo na inong dumani jud eh. So the first is kani sa trial balance na ta cash. So diri katong ahong giingon ninyo kani morning ang balance ni ja is 22,200. So debita kuan 22,200. So accounts receivable sa atong gi-base ni siya sa ledger gikan. So ang accounts receivable is kani siya 12,000. So ato ni siyang ibutang sa trial balance. So prepaid rent natay prepaid rent nga kani siya 8,000. Ato ra ni siyang ikuan. Ato na lamang ni siyang kapihon. So, ang sa supplies natay 18,000 nga sa supplies kani siya. Kani. Agpasabot anang naka-bold guys mo na si J amount guys nga total amounts ni ja. Mali na siya guys 12,000 diri na sa kuan. Debit na siya. Wala. Ang supplies is 18,000. Prepaid insurance is kuan 14,000. Service vehicle 420,000. ang office equipment $60,000 kani siya. Notes payable kani siya. Nanatay koan. Credit na siya guys ha. Remember nga nanata sa credit ng side. So natay 210,000. Okay. Accounts payable is 53,000. Always remember nga kanang naka-bold mo na siya koan diyang totals. Total tanan. 53,000. Sa utilities payable na atay 1,400. Sa unearned referral revenues na atay 10,000. Sa Diaz Capital na atay 250. Sa atong Diaz withdrawal na atay 14K. Sa consulting revenues na atay 62,400. Sa salaries expense na atay 13,800. Mali. And utilities expense na atay 4,400. Inanaw na siya guys ipaghimog trial balance kung Excel ang gamit. Mano-mano para makasabot ang tanan. So nga na. So ato na siyang i-total tanan guys. So from cash tanang debit, ato na lang butngan pag debit para makasabot mo. Debit ja credit. So ato na siyang i-total tanan, i-auto sum na to. So naatay 572,400 sa debit side. Sa credit, tanaw na itong nabay mali or koan. Diba na ay koan, na ay mali, na ay koan 600,800. Mo nang always remember nga, kinahanglan ka jud nga, koan nato, vigilanta sa inig solve, vigilanta inig mag koan mag trial balance or mag koan mag ledger kay para makahibaw masakto ni di man jud ni kalika dyan ng mga errors. So unsaon ni nato, so ato ni siyang i-trace asa ta na mali. So dapat ang koan, dapat di ay ang drawings, withdrawals dapat naka-debit. So diri ato ni butang 14. Ato ni siyang tanggalan dira. So mag-total tagbalik. Isa kami i-delete. So mag-total tagbalik. auto sum. O natay debit nga 586,400. Diyan na po tayo credit nga 'wag gihapon na balance. So kinahanglan pa nato og kuan atong i-locate ang errors kung asa dapat na nagkamali. So guys, atong kaanon osobon kay wag na mali ko pagkaan pag total. Let me trace guys ha. So dire 400 din na. So ato na ni siyang itotal tanan. So auto sum. Manang kanunay jud hinumduman guys nga kuan ka jud jud nato mamali lagi punta sometimes og butang mo na kinahanglan nga 100% atong atensyon og kana pong visible ba tanan atong mga gi-referan kay para makakuha ta sa atong mabalance nato si Ja. O da, di ba? O tanawa. Balance na silang duha. So mga ni ako guys. I hope na naka-learn mo sa akong topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, musta man mo guys? Napabang tanan?
Naapa.
Okay, anyway, pasalamat ta sa atong earlier nga mga speakers, si Mr. Christian ug si Miss Janela para sa pag-discuss sa atong first 4 steps. So now, anyway, makita ba ko? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so anyways, para sa sunod nato nga i-present, we have step 5 and step 6. So, anyway, mag-share sa tawag screen ha. Madungog ba ko?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Anyway, naagi hapon tay. Okay, so natay presentation. Okay, what to nang okay. Makita ba ang full screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay. Anyway, sugdan nato ang step 5 and step 6. And of course, guys, cycle ni ha. Dili ta pwede mo diretso og step 6 kung wa ta hing-agi og step 5. Samot na kung wa ta hing-agi sa step 4. Kay ang step 4 importante kaadyo para mahimo nato ang step 5 and 6. So ang nag-discuss sa step 4 kay si Mr. Christian. Okay, anyway, ang step 4 is about the trial balance. So now step 5 is ang adjusting entry. And ang step 6 is the adjusted trial balance. So, first, adjusting entries are changes to journal entries you have already recorded. Specifically, they make sure that the numbers you have recorded match up to the correct accounting periods. So, kaning adjusting entries, kaning step 5, is basically the most challenging part sa tibuok cycle. Kay, di ba, for everyone, nakahimo naman jud ani sa atong cost accounting, di ba? Atong basic accounting, lisod jud kaadyo ang adjustments. Lisod kaadyo inig record, especially pag analyze sa atong mga scenario. So now, let's go to the next slide. So we have the question, why adjust account balances? So nganong mag-adjustment tag balance? Di day pwede nga di ta mag-adjust, sige na lang day ta og adjust ani. So anyway, adjusting entries. Ngano importante ang adjusting entries? So ang adjusting entries importante siya kay tungod ang atong unadjusted trial balance, which is the step 4, may not contain up-to-date and complete data. So nganong kailangan nato mag-adjust? Kay of course, naman jud tay timely changes, di ba? A change is constant. So naa jud mahitabo every single day, especially sa atong negosyo, di ba? Di man ta magnegosyo kung may mahitabo. So naa jud changes every day. So ang atong step 4, atong dugangag step 5, mo nang mahimo ang step 6. So adjusting entries update assets and liability accounts as well as revenue and expense accounts. Adjusting entries help ensure that the revenue recognition and matching principle are followed. So, naibagong words. Revenue recognition and matching principle. Unsa din ni kay numduman tani, di ba? Unsa din ning revenue recognition ati, unsa din ning matching principle ati. So, let me discuss shortly aning revenue recognition. So, mo ni siya ang features sa accrual accounting. Nag-require ni siya na ang revenue is ma-recognize sa income statement sa period nga na-realize siya. Realize ha, accrual basis man ta, dili man ta cash basis. So bisan pagwa nato na dawat ang kwarta, i-recognize gihapon nato siya as a revenue. Okay? Sabtan ba? Okay, anyway, let's proceed sa matching. Okay, thank you. So, matching principle na punta. So, feature gihapon ni sa accrual accounting. Nag-ingon ni siya nga i-record nato, okay, should be recorded in the same corresponding revenue is, feature of accrual accounting instructs that an expense na punta ha, should be recorded in the same period in which the corresponding revenue is earned. So, ganiha revenue karon expense na punta. So ato siya i-recognize bisan o wa pa nato fully nabayran og cash or any ways nga ato mabayran. I-recognize na nato kay expense nato siya in, remember, accrual accounting, okay? There are two types ba, cash basis and accrual accounting. So now, sa atong adjustments, let's focus on accrual accounting, okay? So we have example here. A company buys 500 pesos worth of supplies during the month. At the end of the month, the unadjusted trial balance shows the same 500 pesos worth of supplies. So sakto ba ni? Sakto ba ni nga ang usa ka company way magamit nga supply after the whole month? Sakto ba ni? Definitely no. Very wrong. As in, wronging ka dyan na nga, way magamit. Kaya of course, sa negosyo, na dyan magamit na papel, na magamit na ink, unsa pa nga mga supplies ang magamit. Kaya di dyan na mahitabo nga watay operation sa sul sa usa ka adlaw. Samot na sa sul sa usa ka buwan, okay? So, ang atong 500 worth of supplies, mahimuan dyan nag-adjustments, makuhaan dyan na siya. Okay, so likely the company has used some supplies and the accounts need to be adjusted. Okay, so another one. Unsam ang importante aning adjustments and characteristics. So, failure to record the adjusting journal entry to adjust the supplies account would result in an overstatement of assets. Okay, number 1, overstatements of assets, which means daghan ra kaadyong money ang nalista sa assets. And another one, understatement of expense. It means too little. Gamay ra kaadyo ang supplies expense nga nalista at the end of the accounting period. So, unsa day effect aning overstatement of assets ati? Kailangan jud ni tarungon. Oh yes, kailangan jud ni tarungon kay nga naman overstatement of assets or understatement of liability leads to increased net income on the net statement, in income statement. And kani pong understatement of expense, nganong kailangan pa man ni ajuhon nga madyo no una gamay ra ang gasto? No, dili jud na pidi pasagdan. Kay nga naman, if the expenses are understated, the sales will be overstated. So gamay kung ilista na to nga gamay ra tong gasto, ang atong halin murag mudako. Okay, mo overstate ang atong net income, which will lead sa, of course, nabudget tay taxes, di ba? Mo depende siya sa atong net income. So kung dako atong net income tungod kay na overstate na to ang atong expenses, dako tag tax. Di pod pwede na sa negosyo na dako ra kaadjud tax. So dapat ang atong expenses sakto ra jud, dili nato i-understate. O ang atong assets dapat sakto ra jud, dili pod nato i-overstate. So naputay characteristics of adjusting journal entries. 1. No underlying business events causes adjusting journal entries. Why? Okay, they happen most often because of the passage of time. Just like what I said, every day na dyan mahitabo. Every day na mo bayad sa utang, every day na tay bayaran, every day na ay makonsume na supplies. Every year na po mo depreciate, di ba? And recorded at the end of the accounting period. Of course, recorded at the end of the accounting period. Di man po pwede nga magsiguro tag-record kada adlaw na lang no. Di man jud siguro na kaya. So, ato na i-collect ng mga data and mo pa nato finally formally i-record at the end of the accounting period. And we'll include one income statement account and one balance sheet account. And we'll never, ever include cash account. Okay, take note guys ha. We are using merchandising. We are kay perpetual inventory method man ta, so focus ta sa merchandising operation. So dili ta mo gamit og cash account, okay? Except kung mo gamit ta og adjusting entries for bank reconciliation. But since merchandising man ta focus karon kay perpetual inventory system man, dili ta mo gamit sa cash account, okay? And required every time a company prepares financial statements. Okay, another one. Common types of adjusting entries. Natin common types of adjusting entries. We have 1, deferrals, and 2, accruals. So natin mga example. Common example of deferrals. We have prepaid expenses and unearned revenues. So, unsa din yung prepaid expenses ate mo magkaroon po kadungog ani. So, prepaid expenses, mauni ang mga future expenses nga gibayran nato in advance. So, unsa may example ana? Okay, we have prepaid rent or nagbayad ta for
Prepaid
advance.
insurance.
Okay, yes, very good. Prepaid insurance. Napoy supplies and depreciation. Another one na natay unearned revenue. So, unsa din yung unearned revenue? When a customer pays for products or services in advance for the receipt. So, example, unearned revenue. Okay, ang customer hingbayad og advance before pa gihimuan og service or before pa nadawat ang goods. So, another one, a deferral type adjusting entry is an accounting entry that shifts some portions of a recognized amount into a future period. Okay, so mauna ang deferrals. Familiar naman siguro ta sa deferrals, di ba? Kay naadjud ni kanunay sa atong mga adjustments. Di jud ni mawa. Another one, accruals. Okay, second type is accrual. First type of accrual, or the first common example of accruals, is the accrued revenues. Okay, from the word accrued. Okay, accruals dyan na. So, accrued revenues. Revenues that has been earned by providing a good or service but for which no cash has been received. Okay. So, muna gitawag nga service muna. Service muna bago bayad. Okay, accrued revenue. So, another example of accrued revenues is service revenue. Just like what I said, service muna bago bayad. Or another one is interest revenue. So another example of accruals is the accrued expenses. So unsa din ning accrued expenses ate? So mao ni siya ang refers to an expense that is recognized on the books before it has been paid. Okay? So most common type aning accrued expenses is the salaries expense and interest expense. Okay? So kaning accruals, an accrual type adjusting entry is a journal entry recorded at the end of the reporting period that alters the amount of revenue and expenses recorded in the income statement. Okay, so ato ning hinumduman ha kay kaning duha ka klaseng deferrals ug duha ka klaseng accruals na jud ni kanunay, di jud ni mawa klase-klase. Sa adjustments na jud ni kanunay. Okay, so we have here, nag-prepare ko og problem. Okay, remember kang Mr. Christian nag-discuss siya og trial balance, di ba? Makita ra ang screen? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so akong ipakita karon hamo ni atong problem. So, let's assume na mao ni ang whole problem. So, nagpakita na lang ko og trial balance, and this one here kaning sa right ba ni? Kaning problem 1, yes. Mo ni ang atong adjustments. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So naatay 7 adjustments. So ato ning himuan og adjustments. Oh yes, journal entries for adjustments nato. So 7 kabuok nga scenario, 7 pud kabuok atong himuan og journal entry. So first, di na to kalimtan ha. Ang end sa fiscal year aning David's Music Store is November 30, 2019. Fiscal year ha, na sila own nga fiscal year. So, sa company na nga fiscal year. So, kay basig matinga mo, ano November 30 man na, di man na end sa year, no. Natay gitawag nga fiscal year. And David's Music Store Incorporated na sila own company's fiscal year, and mauni ang ilang mga information nga na-collect pagka November 30, 2019. So ang mahitabuan na ang gihatag sa problem nato is ang datas na after sa adjustments. So ang atong pangitaon karon is pila ang mga na-consume, pila ang worth sa mga na-consume. So, remember nga mauni ang naa sa atong data pagka November 30, 2019. So now, okay, let's remember this ha. Ato ni pakita ning mga adjustments. First, we will make our journal entries. Okay, so again, we have 7 scenarios, and first, para di ta maglibog, para makuha nato ang perfect amount para sa atong adjustments, mag-journal sa ta. Okay? Mag-journal ta. Now, so adjustments, sa journal entries sa atong adjustments, we have, okay, remember this is the problem, ha? Okay, let's start with A. So, here, ang atong ending merchandise inventory, let's assume na walay nahitabo. 99,681. So, walay nakuha sa atong inventory. Just like here. Okay, nakita na ang atong trial balance. Makita ninyo nga ang atong inventory is the same. 99,681. So, wala tay entry, ana. Wala tay entry. Wala tay adjustments, ana. Kay same ra ang amount. So diri ta sa B. Okay, wait. Moingon ra ta nga pwede day nga way entry. Pwede day nga tay entry ana nga scenario nga naa ba dya kada letter niya. Yes, pwede. Posible nga wa tay entry sa usa ka scenario. Pero dili tanan ha. Dili pwede nga wa tanan. So, posible ra nga nay usa nga way entry. Okay, so B. Letter B, store supplies inventory. Ang nahibilin na lamang nga store supplies inventory pagka November 30, 2019 is 1,012. So remember, okay, here. ang atong beginning na store supplies inventory was 5,733. And ang naa sa atong problem nga pagka November 30, end of the fiscal year, nahimo na lang kuno siyang 1,012. So ang atong buhaton, ang beginning inventory i-minus nato sa ending inventory para makuha natong amount na para sa atong journal entry sa adjustments. So ang total is 4,721. So mag-debit ta og store supplies expense for 4,721 and credit store supplies nga 4,721. So letter C, diri na punta sa unexpired prepaid insurance. So remember nga naatay prepaid insurance. Ang first nato, ang beginning balance nato for prepaid insurance was 4,800. Pero ang naa sa problem, ang nahibili na lang daw pagka-end sa fiscal year, 700 na lang daw. So of course, same process. Beginning prepaid insurance minus sa atong ending prepaid insurance equals the amount para sa atong journal entry sa atong adjustments, which is 4,1. Okay? 4,1 ang na-consume. Maunang ang nahibilin is 700 na lang. And since adjustment ang ato karon, atong i-record is ang insurance expense, debit for 1, and credit prepaid insurance for 1 sad. Okay, letter D. Depreciation expense. Naata estimated depreciation on store equipment. Okay, mo depreciate medyo ng equipment, di ba? Di mo dyan mahimo nga mulabay ang tubig. Di mo dyan mahimo nga mulabay ang tuig nga di mo depreciate ang equipment, magkaluma man dyan ang equipment. So, hindi depreciate siya, and ang ijang gi-depreciate is worth 12,500. And muna siya ang atong journal entry. We will use the account depreciation expense and store equipment. And ang atong credit is accumulated depreciation store equipment, which is 12,500. And another one, natay letter E, sales salaries payable. Okay, sales salaries payable. Okay. So kaning sales salaries payable, if makita ninyo sa PICAS, sa atong unadjusted trial balance, wala tay account the sales salaries payable. Ang ato ng account diri is sales salaries expense. Pero ang naa sa atong problem, ang ending kuno na amount sa sales salaries payable is 2,410. So, ang mahitabo ani, ang 2,410 alone ang atong i-record. So, naatay sales salaries expense na atong debit, which is 2,410, and credit nga sales salaries payable, which is 2,410 pod. So, F, we have accrued utilities expense. So, just like ganiha, ang ato orang account diri was salaries expense, unsa to? Accrued utilities expense. So, utilities expense. Ang ato urang account diri sa atong unadjusted trial balance was utilities expense alone. Pero anamtay accrued utilities expense na ending amount. So, we have 2,450. So, kana na pud solely ang atong i-record. So, we have debit utilities expense, 2,450, and credit nga accrued utilities expense nga 2,450. So, mo po ang mahitabo sa atong last scenario, which is ang letter G, allowance for bad debts. Okay, remember na watayin ani nga account sa atong trial balance. Kaya of course, ma-adjust mong gadyod ng adjustments. So, para sa atong debit natay bad debts expense solely nga atong 2,700. So, nga 2,700 man. Kay mao man ni ang gipakita sa problem na ending amount sa atong allowance for bad debts. So, kana ang atong i-record, 2,700. Debit bad debts expense, 2,700, and credit allowance for bad debts, 2,700. Okay? So, muna natong journal entries. So, this time, ang atong mga na-journal ato na pong i-compile sa itong worksheet, di ba? Di mo po pwede pasagdan na ito atong journal. Anyway, gitudluan naman ta ni Mr. Christian sa akong paghimo sa trial balance, di ba? So now, maura pod ang mahitabo sa pag-record sa atong adjustments. So makita ba, maklaro ba si siya, gagmay man kaadyo? Maklaro la? Okay, thank you. Anyway, so dirita sa focus ta sa atong adjustments. Okay, so mauni, just like the trial balance, ang way sa pag-record. And of course, worksheet man natong istoryahan, dapat balance gajud pod every side. Debit side, credit side, dapat balance gajud. Okay? So, ang atong balance ani is 28,881. So, dapat balance both sides ha? Okay. So, kung dili siya balance, so na you're wrong, na error. So, balik na pod. So, just like what I said earlier, kaning adjustments, ang atong step 5, mauni siya ang pinaka-challenging nga part sa accounting cycle. Nganong challenging man siya kay lisod kaadyo ang mga scenarios, lisod kaadyo ang problem, and maglibog ta kung unsa nga account atong gamiton, maglibog ta kung unsa atong i-credit, maglibog ta kung unsa atong i-debit, and of course kung ato na siyang i-record sa atong worksheet, bisan pag mabalance siya, wa ta kay baw nga naa yung wrong accounts nga nagamit. So, usa ka sa job sa adjustments, tibuok worksheet madamay. Okay? So, kaning adjustments, tunga-tunga man ni sa atong steps, diba? Tunga-tunga sa atong cycle. Make sure nga sure ta aning atong adjustments para dili madamay ang uban kay taas pa biya kaadyo atong daganon sa worksheet, diba? Okay, so another one, step 6. So, di na nato kailangan elaborate kay gitudlo naman ni Mr. Christian. So, step 6, adjusted trial balance. Okay, mura nang i-compute. Basic ra nga pag minus, basic na pag-subtract, basic na pag-add. Okay? So, that's how mo come up ta sa atong step 6, which is ang paghimo sa atong adjusted trial balance. So, para makita nato, makafocus ta sa atong adjustment trial balance, I will show you the last slide. Okay. So, mauni ang adjusted trial balance as of November 30, 2019, which is the end of the fiscal year sa David's Music Store Incorporated. So, mauna ni si Jang atong adjusted trial balance. And this is the end of step 6. Okay, so klaro ba?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so now we have our another speaker.
Yay. Hello, good evening everyone. Gutom na ba? Kaya ba mo? Hello? Can you hear me? So, I'm Hannah May Kabatay, and I'm going to present to you about the preparation of financial statements closing entry. So first, we're going to know what is closing entry. So closing entry is a journal entry made at the end of accounting period. Remember that a journal entry is a record of financial transaction. Next, it is involved of shifting data from temporary accounts on the income statement to permanent accounts on the balance sheet. It means that all the temporary accounts nga atong makita sa income statement should be closed or atong i-turn over siya sa usa ka account sa balance sheet. Particularly the capital account, which states in number 3 that all income statements balances are eventually transferred to capital account. But before we proceed on how to close an entries, let me ask you if you are familiar with the word dealer. Naka-familiar man na dealer, di drug dealer, kundi dealer which helps you to remember about the credit and debit balance.
So dealer stands for dividends, expenses, assets, liabilities, equity, and revenue. So dividends and expenses and assets are unsa man na sila? Debit ba na sila or credit? So there are normal debit accounts, while the liabilities, equity, and revenue are normal credit accounts. So any idea which of these belongs to temporary accounts and permanent accounts? Familiar ba mo ng permanent account o temporary accounts? O mo kay ba na? So here's a little trick to help you to remember about that. The word red ale. Red stands for revenue, expenses, and dividends, which are the temporary accounts. So revenue, expenses, o dividends, mo na sila ang temporary accounts, while assets, liabilities, and equity are permanent accounts. So permanent account, the closing balance at the end of an accounting period is always carried forward into the next one. For example, cash. When you have a cash amounting of 500,000 on December 31, 2020, this cash can be carried forward for the next accounting period, which starts on January 1, 2021. So mo nang matawag nato diyang permanent account. While the temporary account, the closing balance at the end of accounting period always needs to be reset to zero. Example, expenses. Imong expenses for this accounting period is dapat nimong i-close before magsugod ang another accounting period. So mo nang gitawag sila nga temporary account. Nga mo na itong himuon karon is to close a temporary account. So natay makita diri nga na isa ka trial balance. Kakita mo sa slide, guys? Hello?
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yes.
all kanang tanang mga naka-highlight sa atong trial balance are the temporary accounts. So first thing nga atong himuon is to close accounts with credit balances. So, it means nga ang tanang mga credit balances is atong himuong debit sa atong journal entry. For example, sales. Ang atong sales is naka-credit sa trial balance, but sa atong journal entry is naka-debit na. Mora po atong himuon sa mga ubang nga mga accounts nga naka-credit sa trial balance, himuon na atong debit sa journal entry. And to close the credit balances is magkuan tag credit income summary. Income summary is a temporary account that helps to close a temporary account. Next is to close accounts with debit balances. Same ra gihapon sa atong gibuhat sa mga credit balances nga ato rang gihimong debit pag-abot sa journal. But in this case, ang mga debit balances na sad ang atong himuong credit sa journal entry, except sa atong withdrawals. So nakakita mo, nag-start ta sa sales. Itong sales, returns, and allowances. So, kung unsay ka ng total sa atong debit balances, is mao po atong ibutang sa atong income summary. And mag-add a little this explanation sa ubos nga to close account with debit balances. The third one is set up ending merchandise inventory. So since ang atong trial balance is wapay merchandise inventory nga nakabutang kay wa pa siya naka journal entry, so let's assume nga atong merchandise inventory is 300,000 pesos. So kay ang merchandise inventory is an asset, so naa siya sa normal debit side and normal debit account. So merchandise inventory, which 300,000 pesos, and credit income summary 300,000 pesos. The fourth one is the closed income summary account. So since ang atong income nag-post tagaina to close a temporary account nagamit tag income summary karon ang ato na pong income summary mao na po'y atong i-close. So atong dapat ni unang himuon is to find the balance of the income summary. So sa first nga illustration na atay credit income summary nga nag-amount og 381,350 pesos. While sa second is natay debit income summary 704,000 pesos. And the third one sa atong to set up merchandise inventory na atay credit 300,000 pesos. So, ato ra na sidyang i-plus tanang credit o i-minus siya sa debit kay lahi ba sila debit o credit. So, kay ang nature account sa atong income summary is credit man naatay balance income summary nato nga 20,650 sa debit side. So means nga ang atong naatay net loss. Net loss si kay income summary lagi nato is naa sa nature nga credit balance. So to journalize it is income summary. Ato nang himuong credit ang income summary. And atong i-partner siya sa capital nga 22,650 pesos. Dapat parehas na siya og amount. And add a little explanation which is the close income summary account. The last one is the close withdrawal account. So, ang atong withdrawal natay withdrawal nga debit 15,000 pesos. Mora po atong himuon is i-reverse ra gihapon kung debit siya sa trial balance sa journal entry ato siya himuon nga credit. So, Robredo withdrawals credit 15,000 pesos sa journal entry and debit Robredo capital 15,000 pesos and add a little explanation to close withdrawal account. That's all. Hope you understand something.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Kabatay.
Thank you po.
Yay! So, okay pa ta. Down to the last presenter and that's yours truly. Okay pa ta, guys. Bibis, okay pa mo?
Okay pa.
Okay pa.
Yay! Kay we're down to me last. Pero kuan, reminder, ang atong mayors ba, okay na ba ang atong attendance? Okay na? Na-send ba sa atong respective group chats?
Yes.
Yay! Okay. So, lastly, dirita sa atong steps 9 and step 10. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So, makita ra ang atong magahunggi. Anong papel, guys? So, for step 9, ang papel. Prepare a post-closing trial balance. So, that is the 9th and typically final step of the process. So, typically 9th step of the process. So, the word post in this instance means after. So, you are preparing a trial balance after the closing entries are complete, which was step 8. Like all trial balances, the post-closing trial balance has the job of verifying that the debit and credit totals are equal. The post-closing trial balance is also used to double-check that the only accounts with balances after the closing entries are permanent accounts. So, kay bao naman ta sa atong permanent and temporary accounts, di ba? Kay gi-mention naman nato ganiha. Recall that the trial balance is prepared in the following order. We have assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses. Now, since the temporary accounts have been closed, or revenues and expenses, the post-closing trial balance only lists the balance sheet accounts, or they are assets, liabilities, and equity. Wherein, makita nato dire sa atong example, dire, okay, mo ni ang atong balance sheet. Example, ato lamang full screen no. Wherein makita nato diri atong assets diri nga side, di ba? So here we can see in the post-closing trial balance example nato diri from cash up to accumulated depreciation diri mo nay atong assets. Then diri sa atong liabilities, makita na nato diri sa atong accounts payable up to the long-term loan. And lastly, for our equity, atong owner's capital. So, mo na sa atong post-closing trial balance ang makita again atong assets, liabilities, and equity, atong permanent accounts. At this point, the accounting cycle is complete and the company can begin a new cycle in the next period. But wait! It is worth mentioning that there is one step in the process that the company may or may not include, and that is our step 10, which is to prepare the reversing entries. The last step that you may or may not include in the process. So, it is optional. Reversing entries are made on the first day of an accounting period to remove accrual adjusting entries. So, which means revenues that have not yet been received or expenses that have not yet been paid that were made at the end of the previous accounting period. Two benefits are it greatly reduces the chance of double counting revenues and or expenses, and it allows for more efficient processing of the actual invoices that will be processed in the new accounting period. So again, invoices are different from asa naman ko? From receipts. Oh my gosh. Invoices are different from receipts because invoices, it is issued prior to the customer sending or giving the payment, while receipts is issued after the customer have given the payment. Okay. Na-confuse ko kadali. So to illustrate the concept, the following entry shows an expense accrual in January for an $18,000 expense item for which the supplier's invoice has not yet arrived. So, mag-debit ta diri og expense of $18,000 and mag-credit ta og accrued expenses, $18,000. You now create the following reversing entry at the beginning of February accounting period. So this leaves the original $18,000 expense in the income statement in January, but now creates a negative $18,000 expense in the income statement in February. So debit accrued expenses, then credit expense. But we are not done yet. The supplier's invoice arrives later in February, and we record it with the following entry, which offsets the negative $18,000 that would otherwise have appeared in the company's income statement in February. So debit expense, credit accounts payable. So offset accounting here, offset, is the cancellation of an accounting entry with an equal but opposite entry. Mura bagog sa algebra pa ato sa pika side, no? Minus. Reverse atong reverse. So the result is that the $18,000 expense appears in the company's income statement in January, which is presumably when it was supposed to appear under the accrual basis of accounting, while there is no net recognition of any expense at all in February. Thus, a reversing entry has allowed us to properly record an expense during the period when the expense was incurred, rather than in a later period when the company obtains the supplier's invoice. The reversal entries, although an optional step, as I have said, marks the end of the accounting cycle. Yay! End na ta. All of the steps will now need to be repeated again and the process to be followed through by the bookkeeper for the next accounting cycle. Many students who enroll in an introductory accounting course do not plan to become accountants. Did we plan to become BSA students in the first place? Di ba, wa? Ako ra ba? Ako ra ba itong nagplan? Oh, di ba? Yes, finally. Di na day ako. They will work, we will work in a variety of jobs in the business field. We might be manager someday, in the sales department or finance. Thus, students often ask why we need to do all these steps by hand in our introductory classes, particularly if we are never going to be an accountant, but we will be someday. Power, GPians. It is very important to understand that no matter what your position, if you work in business, you need to be able to read financial statements, interpret them, and know how to use that information to better your business. Kay unsa may atong goal? Unsa may atong goal? To gain profit. Di, to make the right decisions, di ba? Okay. So that's all for our unang pagsasakdal accounting cycle perpetual method, everything you need to know 2021. So, naabatay questions. Guys, napabatay questions? Hello, napabata? Dire? So, if you are wondering, kay, di ba, atong internet connection, kay lisod man, and everything. So, nag-record ta, ha, diri sa atong, oh yes, nag-record ta, of course. Then, mag-send, ato rin i-upload very soon on YouTube. Then, mag-send rami sa links to your respective mayors. Sila na ang mo padagan sa inyong respective group chats. And, hopefully, kitang tanan natay na learn. Kay kami po, daghan po ming na learn. As in, na-refresh gajud among minds. So, kaan, nabatay questions. Okay na ba ta? Okay na ba? Mani thumbs up. Di ba para sa Zoom?
Okay na, te.
Wait now.
Okay.
In fairness no, ako rin kasi may sige katawa. Unfair man eh. Kung kinsay maka-on sa cam, please turn on your cameras kay mag-selfie sa takadali. Okay ra? Oh, unsa ko na i-sudan, guys. Wita,
Pakamitaon ka.
Ako katigo, unsa uni, please kuan. Okay, oy asa raman ko. Dai, nabali na, dai. I-rotate imong screen, dai, or masud ta. Yay! I-on, please, ang inyong cameras. Change layout.
Picture lagi mo.
Yes! Come on!
Ipanggutom na sila.
Ay, kay mag-picture sa ta, sa kanila.
Sige.
Go. Okay na mo?